Well, joining me now from Rome is Marco Cecchini. He's the former spokesman for the Ministry of Economy and Finance. Also from Rome is Andrea Sarubbi. He's a former MP with the centre-left Democratic Party. And from London, we have Robert Oulds. He's the director of the Bruges Group, a Eurosceptic think tank. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. Marco, let me begin with you. From the outside, it seems as if President Mattarella has made a decision on behalf of the EU and the Eurozone and not on behalf of Italians. Is that true?
No, absolutely. Mattarella took in consideration the probable effect of a government that is characterized by a strong anti-Euro attitude and probably the intention of coming out Italy from Euro. That could be a disaster for Italy and could be a disaster for Italian savers. That means that in a minute, the Italians would have lost their savings. And so that is the action of Mattarella was to protect the savers from an initiative that is against the Constitution, against the European treaties that Italy has subscribed, and it's perfectly legitimate.
Okay, let me ask Andrea Sarubbi. Andrea, even if Italians would have lost their savings, even if it might not have worked out, this is what they voted for. They voted for the people that they put in office. The president went against it.
Well, actually, it's not really like this. It's a little bit more complicated. I would say that we have to remember first that the two parties that now are together, which are the Five Stars Movement and the Northern League, they were competing against each other at the elections. So people who voted for the Five Stars didn't like the League. And people who voted for the League, they mostly liked Berlusconi because they were allies, and they disliked Cinque Stelle, the Five Stars. Then their agreement was a post-electoral agreement. So it was something very, I would say, parliamentarian, something that happens in any Western country, and something that really Italy is used to, because we've been having post-electoral alliances for years, and I would say decades. But now they want to, they want to convince people that that was the will of the people. It was just the will of two political parties.
Okay.
One of them decided to leave the alliance and join the other, and that was it.
Okay, let me ask Robert Oulds. So Robert Oulds, what we're hearing basically from the other two Italian guests is that you have the League and the Five Star Movement both signaled that they wanted to leave the Euro. They were Eurosceptic. They might have wanted to even, leave the European Union. It might have possibly collapsed the economy. The president, Mattarella, decided to act fast in order to safeguard his nation, and it was all constitutional. Is that how you see it?
Oh, this is typical of the European Union, where, of course, people will object to European Union politics and they're made to vote again. If there's a government that's put in place, be that in Greece or in Italy, of course, in Greece with Papandreou, who was promised a referendum on the austerity measures, he was eased out. In Italy, of course, the European Union pushed for a change of government. And now, of course, we learn that Wolfgang Schäuble, who's German finance minister, European Union were pushing the president of Italy to make sure this person did not get the job. Basically, the people of Italy voted for this outcome. As you made quite clear, people voted for a Eurosceptic, or two Eurosceptic parties. People in Italy, quite frankly, had enough of the European Union's failed policies, which are not working for Italy, and they want a change of direction. The European Union's response has been to push harder on the fiscal compact and the growth and stability pact, and now, of course, really have a coup d'etat in Italy, in a sense, using obscure constitutional powers that belong to the president, which are very, very rarely used
let me bring in Marco.
make sure that it toes the line and does what it's told.
Okay, towing the line. Okay, fair enough. So there's a populist fervor at the moment across the continent. Marco, isn't this only going to further strengthen the populists, especially since there's a new election on the horizon? Surely the Northern League and the Five Star Movement are going to get more support now because the people felt that their last vote didn't count.
Well, let me add just one thing to what the former guest said. So at the last election, Lega and Cinque Stelle collected in total about 49% of the voters, okay? And, but the participation to vote amounted to 64% more or less. So
that's the same
at the end,
election. Any government, it doesn't have legitimacy because there was people that didn't vote. Please do not play those games. We see in Germany coalitions emerge. In Italy, we never say, "Oh, Angela Merkel, you can't rule in Germany. You can't be Chancellor of Germany because people stayed at home and you formed a coalition." Come on, it's quite clear that the people of Italy voted for these parties largely for a number of reasons. Immigration is one. Also, of course, better social protections, which can't be delivered whilst the European Union is forcing austerity measures.
Fair enough.
Policies which
Marco,
the Italian economy.
Marco, you can't use low turnout as an argument. That's according to Robert. Go ahead, Marco.
No. Can I conclude my point?
Please do.
So, the two parties, the two populist parties, do not represent a majority of Italians. They represent a minority of the Italians. They represent a majority of the Italian voters, but not of all the Italians. So this is a point we have to take in consideration. And as far as the question on possible increase of the populist party in the next election, it's possible. It's quite possible. But it's even we are going to have a war between people against euro and people in favor of euro. And at the end, we don't know what the Italians will decide. And remember what happened in Greece, where Tsipras called a referendum on the participation to the European Union, and the population, even if it was affected in a bad way from the measures of the European Union, voted to remain in the euro.
Well, actually, they voted. On the other hand, Marco, Tsipras, they had voted, Marco, not to take on new loans, and Tsipras ignored that vote in 2015.
That was fake news, what we just heard.
Hold on.
Voted against the European Union's proposals.
Marco, so just for clarification, Marco, the people voted against further austerity and against further bailouts. Tsipras ignored that referendum.
Yes, but if you ask people, if you ask Italian citizens, okay, you are in favor or against austerity? Of course, they answer, we are against austerity. But if you call them, you want to stay in the euro or you want to leave euro? And if we don't know what they will respond.
Okay.
But if you tell them and you explain them the consequences of leaving euro, probably they will realize that the advantages of leaving euro are very, very, very low.
Okay.
And these advantages are so huge.
Let me bring in Andrea. Andrea Sarubbi. So this upcoming election, if things go a certain way in Parliament as expected, and there's a new election called by Carlo Cottarelli, or rather, Carlo Cottarelli sort of ushers in this process, and then there's a new election. Is that election going to be basically European Union or not, or Euro or not? Is it basically going to be a referendum?
We don't know it yet, because it depends on Berlusconi and Salvini. Berlusconi, he was the former Italian Prime Minister, has been, I think, for like 4 times the Italian Prime Minister. And Salvini, he was his weaker ally. Now he's the stronger ally that he's got. And it depends on them, you know. If they plan they're going to run together, then it might be something different. But if Salvini leaves Berlusconi and joins Cinque Stelle, and they go together, the two of them, then you're right. In that case, it might be a sort of referendum pro or against European Union. And it's going to be something like, if you remember, I don't remember when, but it was like probably a decade ago, and it was Chirac against Le Pen, Monsieur Le Pen. And so France, they had this sort of Republican front all together versus Le Pen, and they won. And that's something that might happen too, but it's far too early to foresee. I mean, it depends on too many things. Right. What we know for sure is that now we're going to have a very weak government, but a very technical government. That's the way they call it. And they will not disturb the electoral campaign because they will only focus on current issues, and right. That's it.
Okay, so Robert Oulds, an economist, Carlo Cottarelli, picked by the president, seen as a safe pair of hands, as a technocrat, somebody they called Mr. Scissors, who's going to present a new budget, presumably with a lot of austerity. Tell me why, I'm presuming you think it's a bad idea.
First of all, this isn't the choice of the Italian people or technocrats imposed from above at the behest of the European Union. Isn't exactly going to fill the Italian public with confidence. And of course, the policies they're going to enact will, of course, be checking this budget by the European Union, by the European Commission, as they must. And of course, the European Central Bank ask the permission of other European states how they can run their own country. And so far, we see that in Italy, the euro hasn't been working and these deflationary policies haven't actually delivered. The debt is massive in Italy and unemployment has been grinding away. Italy should be forging ahead. It's a very great creative nation with a strong industrial base, particularly in the north. It can't take advantage of this because of the policies of the euro, which are foisted upon them. So really, Italy needs a change of direction, and the public clearly want to have a new direction. Putting in a technocrat is actually just going to be following the rules of the masters in the European Union who are really dictating to Italy. They've done this before. They're doing it again. There comes a point when the Italian people should say, enough. Okay. We'll run our own country to our own best interests.
Okay, so let me pose some of that to Marco. Marco, the point being from Robert that the euro hasn't been working. The economy has been sluggish. Youth unemployment at 35%. He calls it the masters of the European Union. So he's talking Brussels, he's talking Paris, he's talking Berlin and others. Is your sovereignty in question here as Italy? Do you have to go along with what Robert calls your masters, who are the bigger, more powerful countries on the European continent, or pay the consequences?
I totally disagree with this analysis for two reasons. First of all, Italy is not in the condition to be alone in the global context. Italy is a medium economic and political power. The idea is that in the global economy you can't stay alone. You have to be together. And look what happens in Great Britain. You know, the Brexit is making bad consequences in Britain. And companies are leaving.
Record low unemployment. More fake news. Please, we have record low unemployment. We still have low interest rates. The FTSE 100 index has been at record highs. We have more tax revenue. We have more foreign direct investment.
So Robert believes that Brexit's been good for the economy. Okay, fair enough, Robert. Marco.
Fake news.
Marco, Robert believes that Brexit's been good for the economy. He believes independence is more valuable than what you want. Let me then adjust that point to you very finely, Marco, and ask you, is it possible that while being integrated with these bigger economies, the likes of Italy and Greece and other countries have to carry too heavy of a burden to bail out, the banks from the bigger countries? And that's one of the problems that the Italian voters have.
The union, the economic union, and the participation to euro request some cost. Do you remember in 2003, The Economist came out with a cover with this headline, Germany, the sick man of Europe. Germany was in a disaster situation. It was, the growth was lower than the growth in Italy and in other countries. But at the end, the Schröder government decided to make structural reforms. They reformed the labor market, in a heavy way. And at the end, now Germany is much stronger. Italy participated to euro without taking in consideration the cost of euro. If there was a problem with euro, that was at the beginning. Probably Italy had to stay out for a couple of years, adjusting its economy, and then join the other economies in the euro.
Okay.
But now you are in and you can get out, absolutely.
Okay. Well, we'll be watching Italy very closely. Lots of uncertainty at the moment and possibly new elections ahead. Chaotic in Italian politics. To some people, it's just Italy being Italy. We'll have to wait and see. Robert Oulds, Marco Cecchini and Andrea Sarubbi, I thank you all for joining us here on The Newsmakers.